You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. And what a great day it has been in Tampa Bay. And believe me, folks, we have lots and lots of things to go over today with you as over here, looking at a bunch of things. Which things do we talk about first? But we got so many good things to talk about today. In about 20 minutes, we're going to have Lightning Insider Erik Erlendsson on with us. We're going to be talking about Lightning and what a quiet, successful start to the season the Lightning been having with all the excitement around, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's take a look today. For those of you that did not know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had their victory parade today. A lot of drinking, a lot of partying, a lot of celebration out in Tampa, downtown in the Bay. And what a great time. If you didn't happen to see it, let's take a quick minute look at it, the video here, on what it was like in Tampa. As you can see the boats from Channel 13, they're showing you Bruce Arians, and I believe it's Tom Brady getting on the boat over in downtown Tampa. Just a fun day. They were throwing the trophy, the Lombardi trophy around. like it was a football. I mean, just a great, great time and a beautiful way to go ahead. And you look at all the people there that were downtown. Those are all the boats inside the bay. Look at all those different boats down there that were down in the bay there, just having a good time, partying, living it up, celebrating the champions of Super Bowl 55. And you can see all the fans to the right over there, looking at it as we take that away. Let me go ahead and move that. But just a great, great time here that we had. And I'm just changing the a logo here for a minute here. So bear with me as I fell a little behind there. But just a great, great time. And, before we get into lightning talk, with Erik Erlendsson, and before I talk about the lightning, I do want to go ahead and, we got so much coming up right now. We got baseball season next week. We're going to be talking to people from every home city in the American League East. So we're going to have a person from the Toronto Blue Jays, a writer reporter coming on, talk about the expectations of the Toronto Blue Jays, the Baltimore Orioles, the New York Yankees, of course, the Boston Red Sox, and then your very own Tampa Bay Rays. As a week from tomorrow, baseball season starts, pitchers and catchers. We're going to do a lot this year with the American League East, the division that the Tampa Bay Rays are in, and we're going to get as much information to see who's going to be the one this year that battles it. But before we get to baseball, today it's going to be hockey and a little bit of football and whatever else the fans might like. I want to welcome Tommy to the show and Erik to the show. Thank you guys so much for being on tonight. But, one of the things is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to try to figure out strategically in what order do they want to bring back their free agents. They got a lot of free agents on this team. And, you have to understand something, folks. They won the Super Bowl. These individuals, these players deserve to be compensated for that and deserve to go where the money is. Now, we can only hope, we can only pray that Bruce Arians and Jason Light can go ahead and bring back as many of these free agents as possible. But look at Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett, 2 years in a row, didn't have the numbers he had last year, but still had an unbelievable playoff, and he needs to capitalize on this. So the question's going to be, are they going to franchise tag him? Are they going to try to sign him? That would probably be one of the first people that I concentrate on signing before anyone. The next one's got to be Levante David. He's the quarterback of that defense. He's the reason, 9 long years of, playing with the Buccaneers in pain, not winning a game, and finally getting the opportunity to win the Super Bowl. I think they need to bring him back too. Of course, Gronk is going to be in the mix, but the big question is going to be is, can they retain Godwin? And I think if anybody is going to go in this mix, it could be Godwin that is the odd man out. And people say, well, Godwin's great, and he is great, but Godwin also deserves his money. Godwin deserves to get paid what top receivers get paid, and people are going to be willing to give him that money. Now, whether they can sign him or not by structuring different contracts, who knows? But Godwin, if he is the man out, you're going to have Evans. You're going to have Gronk probably back. That goes without saying. Then the question comes, do you sign AB or do you not sign AB, Antonio Brown? And obviously, if Godwin's gone, AB is probably a good bet to be re-signed. And you got to remember, they got Scotty Miller. They got Tyler Johnson. So they are backed up on receivers. So don't be surprised, Tampa Bay fans. I just want to let you know so that you're prepared for it. If Chris Godwin is the odd man out, then you got to talk to you bring back playoff Lenny. Lenny had remember, Lenny didn't have a great year, had an okay year. But when the playoffs hit, Leonard Fournette became money man. And I'll tell you what, playoff Lenny, whatever you want to call him, delivered for the Bucs. And the question is going to be, is somebody else going to try to get Lenny, and will the Buccaneers have to go for somebody else? I don't see Shady McCoy being back on this team. So it's going to be Ronald Jones and maybe Leonard Fournette. But if Leonard Fournette is not back because he chooses to re-sign somewhere else, don't be surprised if you hear the name Adrian Peterson pop up, and Adrian Peterson comes over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of running backs, they'll be able to find one that can fill that need. And then, of course, Ryan Suckup. What a year Ryan Suckup had. Ryan Suckup, I've been saying it all year, unsung hero for this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team. So when you look at what did we just discuss? 6, 7, maybe 8 players, that we got to bring back. Now, it's all fine and dandy that while Bruce Arians was drunk today, he told Levante David, I want you back. That's all fine and dandy, but you got to remember, folks, when they sober up and it comes down to negotiations, all these folks have a family to feed. They want to make the most money they can at the best time in their career. And right now, when you win a Super Bowl and you played as well as most of these players played on that Super Bowl team, your stock goes up, and this is the opportunity for these players to make their most money, and they deserve that. Let's hope, let's pray that Tampa Bay Buccaneers can go ahead, re-sign these players, and we'll see what happens. I know we all have our favorites, but, remember, folks, when you go to the Super Bowl, the thing about the Super Bowl is it doesn't give you as much time as we used to before the draft. Free agency starts here in a couple of weeks. Remember that. We got Tom Brady in March, if you remember last year. In March. So, it was just then at the beginning of March when we got Brady. Well, guess what? We're already in the middle of February. So the time is not that long between now and free agency. Then you got the draft. So everything's coming up quickly here. Should be very, very, very interesting. We will tell you about something we did hear, that Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it is unofficial, once again, unofficial news coming out of One Buck Place, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are planning to sit down in the next week with Tom Brady to talk about a possible contract extension of 1 or 2 years. Tom is contracted until next year, but they're talking about seeing if they can get him to sign an additional 2 years if he decides he wants to continue to play. So that's our Buccaneer news for today. A lot of things coming down the pipe. That's what happens when you're the world champs. But, talking about earlier when we started our show, if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, we talk about how great is it right now to go ahead and be a Tampa Bay fan. You have the Lightning that won the Stanley Cup. You have the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. The Rays go to the World Series. The championship game in soccer, unfortunately, is canceled, but the Rowdies, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, were planning to play in that game. So this is the city of champions, Titletown, USA. Call it what you want to call it, but it is a fun time, and why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were winning football games and, continuing to go on in the playoffs and then winning the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Lightning was starting their season pretty quietly, where they were under the radar, and it's unbelievable. For those of you that haven't watched, in their first 11 games, they have 9 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. And yesterday was no different, as the Tampa Bay Lightning won 6-1 against the Nashville Predators, winning their 6th straight game. Braden Point, 3 assists. Mikhail Sergachev, 3 assists. Steve Stamkos, 2 goals and an assist. Matthew Joseph, 2 assists. Andre Palat, a goal. Yanni Gord, a goal. And Andrei Vasilevsky, what can we say? Another 32 saves. Like I said, it's the Lightning's 6th straight game that they won. Tampa Bay was 3 of 5 on the power play last night. Why the Predators, they killed 4 power plays the Tampa Bay Lightning killed for that Nashville had. But if you look at this season, it seems like everybody is contributing on this Lightning team. Let's first start with the captain, who just a couple of months ago, a lot of us was questioning whether he would ever play hockey again. And that was Steve Stamkos. And all of a sudden, magically, he comes back and he is playing top-notch. He's leading the team with 14 points, leading the team with 7 goals, and he has 7 assists. So like I said, 14 points in 11 games. And then you got that same line. You got Braden Point, 4 goals, and he's leading the team with 10 assists and tied for the leader in points with Stamkos with 14. How about Victor Hedman? 3 goals, 9 assists. We just talked about Mikhail Sergachev, 9 assists already in 11 games. Cirelli, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in 11 games. Palat, he has 5 goals, 3 assists. And when you look at this goaltending of the Tampa Bay Lightning, it is so amazing. They are averaging, giving up goals against the Lightning goalies are under 2 goals. It's actually under 1.8 goals per game. Just unheard of. Unheard of. And, when you look at this Lightning, Goodrow the other day won the Player of the Week last week. I think he had 4 points in like 3 games. So every single person, John Cooper's got to be happy. Now, some of us will say, and we'll talk to our good buddy Erik Erlendsson in a couple of minutes when he comes on in about 5 minutes, about the division they're playing in now. The division is a little weaker. I want to be honest with you. We all know that, the teams they're playing are not as good as the teams that they would be playing in a normal regular season. A lot of Nashville you're playing, a lot of they're all conference games, all in your conference. So the competition is not as steep. And we'll talk to Erik, like I said, about that in the next couple of minutes when he comes on. But, you got to give credit where credit is due. You still got to play the games. It's kind of like in football. People say, well, you're playing a under 500 team. Well, those are teams you have to beat. Those are teams you got to beat. And that's what the Lightning are doing. They're going to the ice and they're winning the games they are supposed to win. Some people will argue, what does that mean when playoff time comes? When you're playing different caliber teams. I'm going to tell you something. There's a word called confidence. There's a word called belief that is just amazing. And, use another word, contagious. Winning is contagious. When you're winning, you don't want to lose. It's the greatest feeling in the world when you're winning. And you can ask any of the Tampa Bay teams that right now, as they all were winning. So we're going to ask Erik about the divisions, what we should expect once it is playoff time, and what's going on, when we finally play other teams. But give the Lightning credit. They are doing what they are supposed to do. For those of you folks that are watching on different platforms, different Lightning platforms, whatever platforms you are on, please share this to your timeline. I did not share this to all the Buccaneer timelines tonight. I put a message out. I understand a lot of those things are about Buccaneer-related stuff, and I want to do my best to do my duty to only put stuff out when we're dealing with Buccaneer talk. And we're going to be back with those groups. Obviously, when we talk football, when we do the draft, we talk free agency, and, of course, when next year starts. But share this to other groups. If they want to listen to us about the Lightning, about the Rays, about upcoming baseball season, basketball, NHL, have them become a member of Frankly Speaking Sports. You go to Facebook and you join. You can also follow us on Twitter at Larry Frankus with a U.S. at the end. So, like we said, just unbelievable what, the city of Tampa is doing. And the Lightning do not look like they're going to draw us back in any way, shape, or form, as they have started out red hot here to open up the 2021 season. Once again, if you're just joining us, the Lightning have 9 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie in their first 11 games. So just unbelievable there. We are about 2 minutes away from having Erik join us. Let me check my phone, okay? Make sure everything is all right there. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a quick station break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Erik Erlendsson, Lightning Insider.
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports, ladies and gentlemen. Before we went to break, we were talking about the Lightning, the unbelievable season that they got off to, and it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to now introduce to you Lightning Insider. Please welcome in Erik Erlendsson. Erik, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good, Larry. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me good?
Absolutely.
Well, it's great to have you on, and I'll tell you what, it's amazing because I think this is the quickest we ever turned around a hockey season in past history. Just seemed like it was a couple of months ago. You and I were celebrating the Stanley Cup victory, and now we're already 11 games into the season. But before we get to the Lightning, but on the same subject, the Lightning won the Stanley Cup. We know the Rays went to the World Series and won and got, didn't win it, but they got there. And then, of course, you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just won Super Bowl 55. Talk about the Buccaneers for a second, Erik. I know you follow all the sports, and how big that was for the trifecta for the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, Team Tampa Bay is Titletown USA. It's really incredible to see. I mean, you think of some of the hard luck seasons the sports scene has had here with the Lightning, pre-2003, and obviously the Rays up until 2008, and all those years of the Bucks. I mean, the start of the franchise, and the Yuccaneers, and the being out of the playoffs for the past 13 years. For all of that to culminate this year into watching all 3 major professional sports teams reach the championship round, and 2 of them. I mean, look, we've matched LA this year, right? LA had the Lakers, they had the Dodgers. Tampa has the Lightning and the Bucks. It's an incredible thing, and we had the boat parade back in September. I had a boat parade today. It's really something. I'll talk about putting the city and the area in the spotlight.
Do you think and I don't want to get off subject of hockey, but just because I know you deal around Amalie Arena, is there a future possibility that we could get a 4th sport, an NBA team here in Tampa?
It's a good question. I know it's been talked about quite a bit, obviously. The Raptors being here and calling Tampa home for at least another few weeks anyway. We'll see what happens with the second half of the NBA season and the situation in Canada. I don't know if that can be the case, though. I don't know how much this area would be able to support an NBA team. We know the passion is certainly there for the Lightning. It's a Bucks city through and through for sure. The Rays are trying to, gain that foothold with attendance and everything. But then you start to think about the corporate sponsorship and the corporate dollars that would have to be involved in bringing another major sports franchise here. I'm not saying it can't work, but there are some things that maybe some other markets are able to kind of push through a little bit easier than this market. And I mean, look, Seattle's pushing hard to get the Supersonics back too. You have to think with them getting an NHL franchise next year that they'll have the NBA back somewhat soon as well.
And why the Buccaneers were playing, loudly controlling the fan base here in Tampa Bay and getting to the Super Bowl. We have the Lightning that have quietly started off at 9-1-1. I mean, just an unbelievable start for the Lightning.
Yeah, quietly is the right way to put it. They've been kind of in the background here a little bit. Obviously, no fans yet still allowed in the building in the Amalie Arena. We know the TV situation in terms of who's able to actually watch the games, and then that situation that's going on there. But yeah, 9-1-1. They've had 3 games had to go postponed because of COVID issues with some other teams. So it kind of stuttered their start to the season. But they're in a little bit of a flow now. They've gotten 6 games in here in the past week. For them to start 9-1-1 after starting the season 3-1. They've picked up. I don't want to say where they left off, but like I'm watching that game last night against Nashville, and I'm seeing a team that won a Stanley Cup last year with the way they played, with their attention to detail, with their ability to control the play through the middle of the ice. Scoring some timely goals, falling behind, not getting rattled, scoring 3 goals in 2.5 minutes, and taking a 2-goal lead. And then just playing a comfortable game. They're not putting themselves at risk and trying to feed the other team a potential comeback as maybe we've seen in years past. Just watching a team that's comfortable in their own skin going out and just playing hockey.
Yeah, and, we'll get to some of the players in a minute, but, the divisions this year, obviously you and I both know how different they are from last year. And some people will argue, and even you and I could say that the talent that they're playing against is not as good as a regular season talent would be because of the number of different teams that you would be playing. In this case, Erik, does winning still become contagious and carry on, or can winning be deceiving going into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, the first 2 rounds of the playoffs are within Division 2, so you're going to see teams that you've seen all year once you get into rounds 1 and round 2 of this postseason. But yeah, it's skewed, I think, league-wide. Like, you want to talk about the start Montreal's had. Well, that's fine. Montreal's had a good start in that North Division. Well, they've had a chance to beat up on the Canucks 6 times, or 5 times, whatever the schedule is that they've had. Vancouver's not playing good hockey right now, so Montreal's taking advantage of that. You could say the same thing about Toronto. I mean, any team that's playing Ottawa right now, it's almost an automatic 2 points with the way they're playing. As far as Essential is concerned, I think it's a little bit deeper than the North Division if we're going to try to make comparisons. Chicago has exceeded expectations already to this point, even though Tampa Bay did beat them to open the season with 2 games. They have only lost once in regulation since then, so they're right there. The Florida Panthers, we've all been waiting for them to kind of take the next step and be a team that can contend for a playoff spot on a consistent basis. Is this going to be that year? They certainly look like it to this point. Carolina's had a stutter to their season. They're one of the teams that was affected by COVID, but they look like they have a good team. Dallas started out really well. They've kind of stumbled here a little bit. We expect them to be a good team. So there's probably 5 teams that you can point at in this division and say, yeah, they have a chance. I would have thought Nashville too, but after we've seen Nashville here 4 times in the last week, they don't look like they have any energy going whatsoever. They're not getting scoring from their top guys. They're not getting the goaltending that they need to kind of steal games here and there. But you're looking at 4 or 5 teams that can contend. And the thing is you're going to see the same teams all season long. So it's an interesting sort of way that the season's going to play out for sure.
Now, it was only a couple of months ago where we could have, got into a conversation and either agreed or disagreed on whether the captain, Steve Stamkos, was ever going to play hockey again. And then this year, a couple months later, he's back on the ice. And Erik, 7 assists, 7 goals, 14 points, leading the team in goals, tied for the lead in assists. Are we seeing Steve Stamkos finally getting back to form?
You're seeing him healthy. That's the biggest thing. He dealt with that abdominal issue for a good portion of last season.
Yeah.
Tried to play through it, and it got to the point in March where they just felt it was just best to shut him down and get him ready for the playoffs. And obviously, we all know what happened. there. The rehab didn't go quite as well. The COVID protocols prevented him from going to get it looked at. He tried to work through it. So that really bothered him. You think of the other injuries he's had, the knee injury, the blood clot situation, of course, the broken leg. He just feels healthy. And I think you're seeing that in the way that he's skating on the ice, the way that he is involved in all three areas of the ice. And the biggest thing to me, too, with Steven Stamkos this year is while he got into that very glorious 2 minutes and 57 seconds of Stanley Cup final action, contributed with a pretty good goal as well. He contributed, but he wasn't a major contributor. He wants to be a guy who leads this team. You want to talk about where does a team find motivation again the year after winning a title, especially this team that had the expectations for nearly half a decade and chasing it, and the sweep to Columbus and all of that weighing on them for so many years. Where would the hunger come from trying to get it the following year? I think it's going to come from number 91. He's hungry. He wants to be a major factor on this team. He wants to be a big reason why they win. And I think there's a lot of hunger coming from him that can be something that the team can follow behind.
Now, you look at this team, and, we knew going into the season there wasn't going to be no Kucherov. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Point, of course, is having so far a decent season. And what can you say about Andre Palat? I think he was the man that had to step in to that line. And, it looks like he's doing very well. No, it's hard to replace the Kucherov, but they got to be happy with at least the way he's performing so far.
You can't replace Nikita Kucherov. It's impossible. He's
right.
One of the top offensive players in the game. You see what he means with his power play and his presence over in that right circle. You can't have 3 or 4 guys try and fill the point totals that Nikita Kucherov provides for this team. But to me, Point and Palat obviously were pairing with Kucherov in the playoffs last year. They were a dynamite line throughout that postseason. So we've actually just swapped in Stamkos for Kucherov. That's not a bad swap in, if you're going to take a guy who's won a couple of Rocket Richard trophies, and replace the guy who was an MVP just a couple of years ago. But Andre Palat is the kind of guy, to kind of it's a cliche phrase, but he's the straw that stirs the drink on any line that he's on. He puts in the hard work. He puts in the dirty work. He puts in the work that a lot of times is not going to show up on a score sheet. He wins the puck battles. He goes along the boards and uses his body to block off plays and disrupt plays in both zones. He's defensively responsible. And he's a guy, we saw this with the power play in particular, who was going to play in Kucherov's spot. And they tried Braden Point there for a little bit. They experimented with Mikhail Sergachev in training camp to see if that might fit. We saw Palat do it a couple of times during the playoffs last year. I remember the series against Boston when the power play was kind of struggling. They actually put Kucherov over on the left side of the ice and put Palat over on the right side. He actually scored a power play goal in that game. So based on what we saw last night against Nashville, where they did score 3 power play goals, it looks like he is going to fill that spot maybe on that right circle and, keep Braden Point in that bumper spot. But, Andre Palat just goes out and does what Andre Palat does. He doesn't look for a lot of fanfare. He doesn't play with a lot of fanfare, but he produces, and he's an important part of this team. I think any player, and I remember John Cooper said this a couple years ago, ask anybody in that locker room who's the number one guy they want to play with. Most of those guys are going to say Andre Palat, and that tells a lot about the type of player he is.
Yeah, and like you said, that line is doing incredible. Point has 10 assists already this year in 11 games. But another guy that's standing out to me is Mikhail Sergachev. He has 9 assists already in 11 games. He's been I wouldn't call him a surprise because he's always been a good player, but it's nice to see him feeling so fluent so early in the season.
It's the growth of a young player. It's the growth of a dynamic young defenseman is what we're seeing from him. I think he'd like to put something over in that G column. He doesn't have a goal yet. He'll take the assist for sure. But you're just seeing his role increase, his time on ice increase, and it's been a progression we've seen, through his first 3 years in the league where he went from, 15 minutes a night to 18 minutes a night to 20 minutes a night last year to, pretty much 20 minutes plus a night this year and rotating between the left side and the right side. They're using him to kill penalties this year. He's manning the second power play unit, which, he's done in the past. He actually got some number 1 power play time in the playoffs. You're just seeing a young player understand who he is and what he can do at the NHL level. It's something that, New Year's Eve last year against Buffalo, we're all going to point to that game where he sort of came out of his shell a little bit in that fight that he had with Jake McCabe in that game against the Sabres, where he just kind of understood how strong he was too. So you take the offensive dynamics that he has, his ability to move the puck along the blue line, his ability to shoot. We all know that those are natural abilities of his that he's shown even as a rookie. But it's the rest of the game that's coming about. It's the understanding now of how to attack an opposing player coming at you, or how to make those reads. They always tell you, 250 to 300 games is what it takes for a defenseman to kind of understand what's coming at him in this league. We're getting to that point with him, and he's just rounding out his game. And the ceiling is still so high for this guy. And he's playing basically a number 3 role on the left side when you've got Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough in front of you. But he's a guy on just about any other team is at least a number 3, if not a number 2, and on some teams a number 1 defenseman. And that's how much he's improved and how much growth he's shown.
Now, I can't say enough about the goaltending. And I know most of it's, except for 2 games, have been Vasilevsky. But here we are, 11 games into the season, and our goals against average for our goalies is under 1.8. That's an insane number when you think about it. And what are we? I think we're playing 50-something games this year in the regular season, and we played 11 games already. How impressive have they been?
Yeah, you're 20% of the way through the schedule. As crazy as that to think, a month into it, but that's where we're at. Andre Vasilevsky is Andre Vasilevsky. He's always been the guy. You go back to game number 2 against Chicago. Okay, they end up winning that game 5-2, but it was a 3-2 game late in the second period. He came up with a couple of just fantastic saves to keep it at 3-2. Keep Tampa Bay in the lead. They go out and they extend it in the third period. And that's what they ask him to do. You don't have to steal games for them because we know the talent that they have. Make the saves that you're supposed to make. Occasionally make a couple you're not supposed to stop, and then just give your team a chance to win. And with the attention to detail, that's what I talk about with this team sort of playing loose a little bit this year and understanding of what they're capable of doing now that they've actually reached the top of that summit. They understand what it takes to get back there. Their attention to playing defense is not exposing their goaltender as much as maybe in years past. They're not having to rely on him so heavily, and they're understanding this phrase that good offense comes from playing good defense. And when you're playing good defense and you're staying underneath the puck, you're also protecting your goaltender. You're not relying on him to make a ton of high danger chances and put a lot of stress on him. You could probably count right now on one hand in 11 games the number of odd man rushes they've given up against, and that's something that the coaching staff stresses. And then when you don't have to tax your goaltender, he's a little bit more fresh to come up with those saves. And he's just he's going to be a Vezina candidate once again this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he's a finalist. It'd be 4 straight years he's a finalist for that award. That tells you all you need to know about what Andre Vasilevsky means to this team.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt what he means to this team. We're going into, and you mentioned it earlier, Eric, I guess it's a home away or 2 games against Florida coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, like you said earlier, surprising 7-1 on the season. How do you look at this matchup? How do you see the 2 teams meet?
Well, I think it'll be a good test for both teams. I think a lot of people can look at Tampa's schedule to this point and Florida's schedule to this point and say, yeah, you've had Detroit a couple of times, you've had Nashville a couple of times. What are you going to do against good teams? So we're going to find out a lot, I think, about both these teams. But how fun is this that at this point of the year, and again, only 11 games in, but we're talking about 3 games. You got 2 in Sunrise Thursday and Saturday, and the Amalie Arena on Monday. 3 straight games against each other that are extremely meaningful games. This is a huge swing. If one team sweeps 3 games, that's a 12-point swing in the span of 3 days because everything is a 2-point game right now. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for both teams. I think it's a good measuring stick for the Florida Panthers. They've made some key additions, starting with Carter Verhaeghe, of course, from the Stanley Cup team last year, was not qualified, became a free agent, signed with them, is playing top-line minutes alongside Sasha Barkov down there. Anthony Duclair has come in, and he's provided some offensive boost for a team that needed some offense. They lost Mike Hoffman and Evgeny Dadonov in the offseason. So, but this will be a lot of fun. We've been waiting for this to be an actual rivalry and not a forced rivalry because of the in-state comparisons. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking to see how Tampa Bay is going to perform against Florida, and I'm looking to see if Florida's for real or not, or if they're just a benefactor of some soft schedule in the early going.
Now, we talked earlier that the Raptors have been playing at Amalie Arena. I lived in different places before where the Bruins played the same place as the Celtics. The Rangers played the same place as the Knickerbockers. I mean, are we seeing any issues with the ice because the Raptors are playing in the same place from it being too warm or anything like that?
You're showing how long you've been around. You call them the New York Knickerbockers, by the way.
I know the Knicks. I know. When I was born, then I used to call them the Knickerbockers, but yeah, and the Knicks. You're right.
That's right. Not that we've seen. I don't wonder if the absence of fans in the building has allowed the ice to stay a little bit more intact, even with the changeover of the court. And look, this is Amalie Arena is still normally a busy building to begin with. You think of the number of concerts and other events that they have in there that forces the ice to be covered during a regular season. But no, I don't think that the fact that the Raptors have been in there has had any effect on the ice whatsoever. And I can tell you from how cold my hands get during some of the games at Amalie Arena, even upstairs in the press box, they're doing a good job of keeping it cold in there. And look, the lack of fans, obviously, when you don't have 18,000 people in there warming up the building, it's going to have an effect on it. I think we've seen that in the early going. Well, it'll be interesting to see when we do get fans back and how much they're going to allow in, and if that's going to have any factor on the.
Well, Eric, that leads me to my question, because I seen today a couple of different states in hockey and in basketball have announced that they either allowing more fans than they had, I guess, allowed at the beginning of the season, or B, allowing fans finally in their stadiums. Have we heard anything from the Lightning or the Raptors about fans being allowed back into Amalie, or have any idea when they may make that decision?
We haven't heard anything officially yet. And the big news, you're mentioning other teams that are saying they're going to allow fans. It's New York State, right? Like that's a big. You think about how locked down New York State has been. So the Sabres, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Knicks, they've all put out messages saying that they're going to allow up to 2,000 fans in their buildings. I think there's some requirements of a negative test at least 3 days out before entering the building. You have to show proof of that. But as far as Amalie, we haven't heard anything official. There were some whispers kind of going around. I saw in a couple of message groups that maybe for Monday's game against Florida, there might be up to 500 people in the building, which is a lower number than we had originally thought it was going to be. Remember when they started selling tickets, and even when the Raptors in December were allowing fans in, they were allowing up to 3,900 people in the building, and that's what the Lightning were going to do before they decided to put the pause on letting people in. So nothing official from the team. The Raptors actually have a home game on Sunday, the 14th. The Lightning are in there the 15th, but the Lightning are then gone on the road again. They don't come back until the following week against Carolina. So I think that, Sunday for the Raptors, Monday for Tampa Bay, I think we'll see something come out here in the next day or two on how they're going to allow fans in. That'll be a test to maybe see if they can allow a few more in for the next home game, which I believe is a week from Wednesday against the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll see, but nothing official yet. But it's coming.
Yeah, and I never understood how they come up with those numbers. I know they have to do a percentage, but when you're talking 1,000 and 2,000, it doesn't seem like it's a big difference to socially distance another 1,000 people when you have so few in there to begin with.
Well, like I actually went to a Raptors game. We went to a game on New Year's Eve there in the building, and I will tell you this: what the building has done to keep people to feel safe, they've done a remarkable job. There's hand sanitizers all over the place. They do require masks to be in the building. Even the escalators, the handrails, those are sanitized with UV lights when they go around and they go under. There's actually a UV light under there that's killing the bacteria, or at least sanitizing it as much as possible. In that situation. The problem is people. I saw plenty of people not keeping their masks on in the building, and only putting it up when they see an usher come around, and then they pull it back down. And I didn't go to concessions, but concessions I would have to imagine is probably a little bit difficult to kind of control, and the restrooms are controlled. So I think those are the things they have to find a way to maybe coordinate a little bit better to allow people to not be so close together. I mean, you go to the restroom and, you go into a men's room and there's, 6 or 7 people standing close to each other waiting for, one of the urinals or something to open up. That's an issue. So we'll see what that looks like. But as far as what the arena did, like, I felt safe enough for there in there for sure. And that was when there were 3,900 people being allowed in the building.
And like I said, this was just going right off that before I let you run. Do you think, and this is just an opinion question, Erik, I mean, I know you're in the media and you get to go different places, but do you think maybe because of the Super Bowl, because of the celebrations of people not obviously doing the correct things, like you said, it's people that, are the issue when we pertain to these protocols, not wearing the mask, jumping on cars without masks, celebrating at the parade without masks. Do you think they are holding up a little bit to see if there's a spike because of the fans that were at the Super Bowl before they go ahead and let people in?
Yeah, strictly my opinion, that's probably what they're kind of waiting for. That's probably why you're only going to see 500, maybe 1,000 at the most for the first game to kind of see where things go. The numbers will dictate. And that's something they said back when they made this decision to put the hold on allowing fans into the building. They wanted to see what the numbers look like. What do the data look like as you got a little bit later? And, it's no coincidence that they put this pause on fans in the building leading up to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Like the last home game was the 5th, the Super Bowl was the 7th. That's no coincidence with the extra number of people that were in town for it that came from other places. So you limit their exposure in that capacity. So we'll see what the numbers look like. You only have the one game between now and then. It'll be it'll be close to 2 weeks by the time we get to that next home game after Monday. And we'll see what the numbers look like for them because as we've known throughout the past 11 months, man, science dictates a lot of what goes on in these situations.
Yeah. And let's just hope that sooner or later these vaccines get to all the people that need the vaccines and we can at least get some type of normalcy around, we could just pray that we could get back to some type of normalcy. Erik?
Yep, I hope so.
Erik, want to thank you once again for coming back on Frankly Speaking Sports to talk about the quick start with the Tampa Bay Lightning. As always, I enjoyed it and want to thank you very much.
My pleasure, Larry. Good to talk to you again, man.
All right, you be safe, okay?
You too.
That was Erik Erlendsson, Lightning Insider, and lots of information. So one thing you'll always get from Erik, there's nobody here in Tampa Bay that does a better job covering the Lightning than Erik Erlendsson, and that's why we always try to get the best possible people on here for you that we can get on to get you the information that you need to know. And, Erik made a good point, and I wanted to hear that from him as well, because I was thinking the same thing. We all knew why they didn't let fans in Amalie Arena leading up to the Super Bowl. I don't think it took anybody to, get a genius to figure that out. But, at the end of the day, we just had a Super Bowl here. We had people from all over the world here. We had so many people outside of the stadium, even though there was only 20,000 people in the stadium. So many people came in. They enjoyed it. Everybody needed that. But sometimes when you do something like that, there are, consequences. And one of the consequences is the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Raptors, they have to, and the city of Tampa has to make sure that everybody is safe before allowing too many people in their facilities. And right now, it's going to be 14 days. Like Erik said, a couple weeks will be a good test to see how the numbers go, get the data on, how many people are contracting the virus and see where we go from there. Good news, a couple of things. You had to hear Erik. New York City opening up stadiums to allow fans in is huge. It's one of the big cities. That is huge. Spring training baseball is going to start on time a week from tomorrow. Pitches and catches report in both Florida and in both Arizona. Big news for the sports world. So a lot of good things are going on. A lot of things are happening. Now we just got to be smart. We have to be smart. We can't let our guards down. We got to listen to the experts. Hey, if you go to a game, you got to wear a mask. Wear a damn mask and stop bitching about it. You know what needs to be done? Do it. Wherever you're going, remember, it's not just about you when it comes to this epidemic. It's about other people as well. And the last thing you should want to do is A, get it yourself, or B, contract it to somebody else because you don't want them to get it either. So just listen. I don't think anybody goes out there on any given day and says, you know what? I want to wear a mask today. I want to wear a mask. I just want to wear it. Of course not. But unfortunately, it's one of the consequences of this epidemic, and we all have to do our part so that we can finally look back on this one day and say, hey, we are so glad that we can get back to normalcy. And it's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen. Okay? But we just got to be smart, not be silly, and most of all, not be selfish when it comes to this situation, and we'll be fine. You can see the office is decorated up. We got our Go Bolts. We got our Tampa Bay Rays right in the corner with the inaugural, you can see seat cushion. Underneath is the, there you go, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, world champion and Stanley Cup right next to each other. World Series right there. If you go a little bit further, you could see Crew Life is hanging up there. So we got banners all over the place in our office celebrating Titletown, USA and the city of Tampa Bay. Now, like I said, in the upcoming days, we're going to talk some baseball. Baseball's a week away. We're going to keep up on the Lightning. And of course, all of you that have watched my shows before football season knows whatever topics are going on in the sports world, we are going to bring you, and we're going to try to get the best people on at any given time to help us discuss those situations. As always, if you ever want to comment, instant message me. Go ahead. If there's something you'd like to see on the show or something you'd like us to do differently, please let me know. That is what we are here for. Oh, I got my Be Thunder shirt on too. Be the Thunder. There it is. But go ahead. Let us know. We want to be able to accommodate you and all your sports needs. For those of you that did not see yesterday, we had a great USF show on Bullseye on our USF platform. You can go to Frankly Speaking Sports, All Crew Life, and watch the replay. We had Mo Trina on. Florida Southern head coach, softball coach was on. We talked to her about a great career at the University of South Florida. She holds almost every single record there is. Go back, listen to the interview. We even went down back and we took out some interviews on. We separated the Roy Firestone interview, the Jim Tunney interview that we did right before the Super Bowl. A lot of people were asking us to do that. Go back, listen to those on Frankly Speaking Sports. And if you're in one of those Buccaneer groups, as I sent out the message today, it's okay. We're going to be back. We're going to be showing you our Buccaneer shows coming back when the season starts back up again. Don't worry. But in the meantime, while you're still a fan of those groups and those other Buccaneer groups, go ahead and join Frankly Speaking Sports. Let your friends know to join Frankly Speaking Sports so you can stay updated on all the latest sport news, including locally here in Tampa Bay. We follow the Rays, we follow the Bolts, we follow the Rowdies, we follow the Buccaneers. You all know that. You've all seen that. We're about 2 weeks away from our 1-year anniversary, and what a year it's been here on Frankly Speaking Sports, on Bullseye, on Crew Life. Just amazing. So I do want to thank everybody for that as well. But if there's an individual that you would like to try to see us get on the show, as long as you instant message me and let me know, we will do everything within our, power to go ahead and get that individual on the show. So it's been a great year so far in 2021 as far as Frankly Speaking Sports goes. We have some great people lined up for you the next couple of days, or I should say tomorrow, and then, of course, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. But as I was saying, for those of you that have friends that are Lightning fans, that are Tampa Bay fans, that are Rays fans, go ahead. Please share our Facebook group with them, and please go ahead and have them join. Another way they can join is go to our YouTube channel, Frankly Speaking Sports. Subscribe. Our shows are on there live every time we do a show. So you can also go to our Twitter account at Larry Frankus with the US at the end. If you have a Twitter account and you're currently not following myself, which is also Frankly Speaking Sports, but it's under Larry Frankus with the US at the end, please go ahead, follow us. We love to have us follow you. We're constantly retweeting messages from all the major insiders, all the reporters, getting you the fastest sports news. People always ask me, Larry, how do you get the news so much quicker than anybody else on Facebook? That is because the people that we work with and the people that we deal with are the best in the entire. And we're going to continue to do that for you and keep you updated on all the latest sports news as quickly and accurately as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, want to thank you so very, very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.